Jon Stewart invited Oklahoma State Senator Nathan Dahm onto his show yesterday to discuss gun laws and firearm restrictions. Stewart quickly pounced on the state senators by calling out Dahm's stance on banning drag shows for children and comparing it to firearms, which Stewart claims is the leading cause of death among children in this country. Let's take a look.
You want to ban drag show readings to children?
To minors,
Why?
yes.
Why?
Why?
What are you protecting?
Why can we prohibit children from voting, those under 18 from voting?
Why are you banning?
Also that.
Is that free speech? Are you infringing on that performer's free speech?
They can continue to exercise their free speech, just not in front of a child.
Why?
Because the government does have a responsibility to protect.
I'm sorry?
The government does have a responsibility in certain instances to
What's
protect
the
children.
leading cause of death amongst children in this country? And I'm going to give you a hint. It's not drag show readings to children.
Correct, yes.
So what is it?
I'm presuming you're going to say it's firearms.
No, I'm not going to say it like it's an opinion. That's what it is. It's firearms. More than cancer, more than car accidents. And what you're telling me is you don't mind infringing free speech to protect children from this amorphous thing that you think of. But when it comes to children that have died, you don't give a flying to stop that.
Pretty brutally effective clip, I would say. Jon Stewart is, really, really good at this kind of thing. And when you're being interviewed in this way, you're on the host's. We know this from what we do. You're on their territory, so you're really at their mercy. What did you think of this interview?
I find Jon Stewart to be an incredibly divisive figure and to be really emblematic of all of the worst excesses of the woke media, and all under the guise of this smug patina of, I am the unifier, the other side are the, the dividers. Yes, I mean, this clip was so perfect because, he's suggesting that the only things you should care about exposing children to are things that will kill them. Does that mean he thinks children should be allowed to watch and participate in pornography because it's not going to kill them? And the whole idea of children, the number one cause of deaths for children is gun violence only when you include Black children who suffer 46% of the deaths of gun violence, right? You take them out and it's not gun violence anymore at all, right? But of course, he is not proposing anything that would in any way, implicate the liberal local authorities who are responsible for these massacres, right? It's all just a hoax. To me, it is just so deplorable to latch onto something and portray it in a way that's so dishonest. And to do that to a guest on your show, by the way, is completely unacceptable. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to ask hard questions, but you're not supposed to get a viral moment out of somebody that you've invited on in order to, ask them, give him information, let him deal with that. Don't just sit there and lecture at him. And I'll just say one more thing. I really started to turn on him when I saw that clip on Crossfire, where he went on this show that, maybe you didn't like Crossfire, but it was a show in which liberals and conservatives got together, sat around a table, and hashed it out. It was the most important show in American television. And he sat there and just smugly made fun of them because the arguments were too populist. They were not up to his standards of what an intellectual debate should look like. Of course, we just saw what his intellectual debate looks like. It looks like berating your guests, right? But so under this patina of, I am the one with the virtue and the value, this smug liberalism, looking down on people who don't agree with him, casting them as some sort of miscreants, he's just doing exactly the same thing they're doing, but worse, but without actually giving them the opportunity to be engaged in the conversation. And it really rubs me the wrong way, in case you couldn't tell.
We're apart on this one. I find Jon Stewart genuinely insightful, and I think he is a free thinker a lot of the time. He went on Colbert's show, right, a year ago or whenever it was, and told the audience, I think it's a lab leak. And Colbert was nervous that he was saying something not approved by the mainstream consensus, which I think he speaks his mind. And I don't always agree with what he has to say. that you're absolutely right about how he handled the crossfire thing, and he came out as the hero of that for some reason. It never made any sense to me. I still appreciate, I date myself, I appreciate his commentary about Iraq from the aughts. That was very scathing and very condemning, but ended up being totally right about how there was no plan, and this was a very bad use of American military might. And with this interview at hand, look, I give him credit. I think it is fair when these state legislators are like the obsession they have with drag shows. Yeah, do I think it's appropriate to bring a child to an event where they're stripping? No, of course not. Do I think this is like one of the top 10,000 problems facing America? No. Now, I am a supporter of the Second Amendment and an opponent of gun control, so I would have answered Jon Stewart by saying, well, look, the courts have found, the Supreme Court, that a lot of the things liberals want to do on this issue violate the Constitution, and also there are real questions about which of these interventions would do any good. In fact, we can restrict gun ownership to people who commit crimes. If you've committed a crime, if you've been incarcerated, we do restrict gun ownership, but we don't enforce that. It's not being enforced. So put the burden on people who say they want more gun control. Well, fine, we already have some gun control. It's not being enforced. So you have to. You just want to disarm lawful, law-abiding citizens who do not cause trouble with guns, who know how to use firearms. The population of people who is misusing guns, these are already illegal guns. These are already people who shouldn't have them, and you're not enforcing that. So let's talk about that first. So that's how I would respond to the gun category of it. But on the why are you so obsessed with drag queens? I'm with Jon Stewart. It just seems like, in fact, even if your primary care in the world is child sexual harm to children or something, I mean, there are the level of pornography being consumed by underage people is daunting and massive. Even if this is your focus, this area of it seems so weird to be all bent out of shape about, because it impacts so few children have been impacted by this.
I mean, it could be the case that very few children are impacted by it, and be the case that people have a natural revulsion at seeing children exposed to things that they should not be exposed to, and that a legislator who says, I respect that, and we're going to do something about it, is worthy of respect, because they're doing that because they're representing their constituency, which is their actual job, as opposed to what most politicians do, which is show up in Washington, and if they're on the left, ask Jon Stewart what he wants done, and then do that because he's going to talk about it on his show. To me, there's just so much contempt and hatred of people who are, normal people, religious people, maybe people with just normie views, who see children at these strip shows and say, that's really problematic and offensive to me, and I'm worried about the future of our nation if this is where we're headed, and I would like to see somebody do something about it. Again, I'm not saying it's my top issue, but I'm just saying to write off the people who care about this as though they're not worthy of having their voices heard in a democracy, I think is a huge mistake.
I mean, I think those people need to get their own houses in order. Abuse at the hands of religious figures and school figures of children is just incredibly higher. It's so much goes beyond. It's disgusting. It's horrible. Yes, of course, we need interventions for that kind of thing. It seems like we're focusing on. Well, I saw one TikTok of a kid at a thing once. Again, gross. I don't know what those parents are thinking, but just it doesn't seem important to me. It really doesn't. But I know it's something it also seems to be animating, right-wing media very much these days. To me, it doesn't seem even the thing, if you're really kids have access to so much pornography on their phones, on their laptops, graphic, hardcore sexual images. That is 99.99999% of kids will not be exposed to something adult because they went to a drag show. So that's mine.
Yeah, I mean, I would obviously put my efforts in banning TikTok for sure. If I had to choose between, Drag Queen Story Hour and TikTok. But I'm just saying, writing people off who care about that, I think, is a mistake.
All right, there you have it. We'll have more Rising right after this. Stay tuned.